Hey loves, welcome to the Ariel show. I hope you're doing well. I feel like life has been a little bit heavier lately and just stressful things are stressing a lot of us out more than usual. And so I picked the topic for today's episode to hopefully help some of us sort of get to the other side of that. We're actually answering a viewer question this week. This question comes from Pika Pantone, who says, "Hey hun, I have a question for you. I have days where I feel disconnected from myself. It leaves me hollow and unmotivated. These days are harder to counter since they don't feel negative or positive. What are some tips for countering these numb days?" Pika, darling, thank you for asking this. I think your question is so well stated. That feeling of disconnection, hollow, unmotivated. I think we all know what those days feel like. And I kind of see in your question that you don't have that feeling every single day. If that was your round the clock normal for you, then it might not be just like this occasional bout of emotional numbness. It could be something a little bit more prevalent, like maybe like ongoing depression, maybe something where you do want to seek professional care for. But if it's something kind of just seems to come, seems to go, that's obviously probably a little bit more manageable. And so I want to discuss with us all today some ways that we can infuse some life into our life, and then also ways that we can accept on the days that things just aren't really working out for us and we're just not really feeling it. So my first tip for you, Pika, is those days when you are feeling that numbness is to take a breath and be okay with it. A couple weeks ago, we talked about when life is getting really overwhelming, when things are too hard, one of the really good things that we can do is to accept it, accept those emotions. And in your case, it could be even accepting the lack of emotion. You know, a lot of times we're not going to be able to understand what's going on. And I think our brains they go on this spin cycle, right? Where they're trying to find a logical reason for why we're feeling the way that we do. But sometimes if it feels like something's a little bit off in our brain isn't working as well as it usually does. And therefore it can't necessarily identify what the root cause of the problem is. And so I find that instead of driving myself even more crazy on those days by trying to identify and pinpoint what is the wrong thing here so that I can immediately fix it and immediately feel better, sometimes it just is really helpful to just make space for the way that you feel and kind of accept it. Once you stop making it such a big problem, I find it just tends to calm down a little bit on its own. And that part of me stops screaming at me, "Oh my God, something is wrong. We're numb. We don't feel it." It's okay. I got it. I know, baby girl. I know we're not really on it today. That's okay. I've made space for this. It's all right. We can be like this every once in a while. And I think that's a really beautiful, self-loving way to treat ourselves. If something is coming up for us, we're not quite sure why it's there. We're not really quite sure what to do with it. We don't have to be on the offense with it all the time. And I encourage us, in fact, to not resist it, but to make space for it, welcome it. Be like, "Oh, here you are. Today's one of those days. All right, I've had these before. I can handle these again." And I also, in fact, like to encourage all of us to make room for that stillness. I think sometimes because we are in this society where we're so overstimulated, there's always new things to read and learn about, and there's new news stories and the text messages, and we're staying on top of all these pop culture stories with things like BuzzFeed newsletters and Twitter news. It's like constant stimulation. And so sometimes when we distance ourselves from that a little bit, and I encourage us to do that on a regular basis, when that happens, it can feel like an emotionally numb state because we're not getting that burst and that hit of something fun and exciting in our brains and in our lives. And if your life has been a little bit more monotonous lately, if it's been wake up, go to work or go to school, eat dinner, go to bed, it's just kind of stuck on a loop, sometimes it can be good to just kind of recalibrate and be like, okay, this is my normal right now. I don't have to constantly be overstimulated. I don't have to constantly be consuming the most exciting, mind-blowing things or have the most Instagrammable, banging, amazing life to document. Sometimes it's okay to just be a little bit normal for a minute. I think it's good for us to see how we handle that, how we are affected by that lack of the constant overstimulation by which we're fed. When we get alone a little bit, it allows things in us to sometimes surface. And I think this is important because many times when we're feeling numb, we are not necessarily making room for all parts of ourselves to be heard in our lives because we're leading such busy lives. And so in the stillness, welcome that stillness, and maybe you'll find that numbness might turn to something else. You might hear something come up inside of you where it's like, hey, here's what I'm really craving right now. Hey, this is the part of me that I haven't really been listening to, that I've been kind of stifling and silencing because I haven't known how to deal with it. And oh, here it is. Here are those feelings of regret. Here are those feelings of disappointment or whatever. And then you suddenly find yourself in a different ballgame. Now you're not dealing with numbness or disconnectedness. You're dealing with this really uncomfortable feeling is what you're dealing with. And sometimes we avoid that and we choose numbness instead. So be on the lookout for that. Maybe sometimes in the back of our heads, we're subconsciously deciding to stay in this zoned out, numbed out space because we don't want to deal with it. But when we create stillness, that's the perfect safe place to sort of let those feelings come up and journal them or work with them or spend some time and attention and care to just comfort those emotions and see how that can help move us forward. And then something else I would suggest for all of you is on the days that you're not feeling numb, if you're waking up and you're feeling like the spark, you're with it, you're jazzing, you're loving it, make it easy for yourself on the next time that you're not feeling as good or the next day that you are feeling numb. And so a day that you're really feeling lit up and like yourself would be the perfect day to make a playlist for yourself for 2 weeks down the line when you might need it. Or to buy like the certain new tool for your hobby. Like if you were like, you know what, I think next time I'm in that kind of more difficult space, I really would love to just paint my feelings on a canvas. But when you're in that maybe more down space, you're not necessarily motivated enough, and you spoke of not being motivated, you're not motivated enough to go to Hobby Lobby and get the canvas and the paints or pull them out of your storage or whatever. So on the days that you're feeling it and with it, those are the perfect times to sort of set your life up in a way that will serve you for next time. So whether that's curating some new music, getting the supplies, maybe redecorating your space or cleaning or organizing something so next time that you need to engage and to feel passionate, all your tools are right ready there for you. And that means that you have to know what does make you passionate. And so just like I talk about in my book, we talk about joy hunting and finding what kind of pulls us out of that state and into this more alive place. It's really helpful to kind of know what those go-tos are for you. So for me, if I'm like needing just some stillness or to give myself some self-care, I like to bake cookies because like sugar fixes everything, right? Sometimes I like to go out with my friends and just get a reset and like quit thinking about all my little problems that are driving me crazy. Sometimes I like to create things, whether that's like sewing or coloring, or maybe it's even like editing a video or doing something more like digitally creative. It still feels like I'm putting myself into something. Songwriting is another good example of that. These are things that sort of just make me feel more like myself. They help combat that feeling of numbness. And so I encourage you also to have that list. And then on the days that you're feeling pretty good, make it easy for you to follow that list. Go buy the ingredients you need to make that cake or whatever that it is. And babe, really, if all else fails, I find it's so helpful to just do something completely out of the box for yourself. So if you've been like stuck in this routine, you're always doing the same thing, go to a new place, get out of your house, get out of your head, go to a show of a band that you've never heard of before. Go check out like some Broadway show or something really interesting in your city, something that your city offers that you normally wouldn't engage in. Sometimes it can just be good to just kind of like rewire and shuffle all the circuitry and expose ourselves to something brand new. And oftentimes if we're going through that same routine, we're not going to get that. You know, there's this quote I share here on the Ariel show all the time that I love that says, if you think the same damn thoughts, you're going to have the same damn day. The way that you get new thoughts, a really easy way is to expose yourself to new ways of thinking through books and podcasts, through events in your town, through just newness. And so that's a really beautiful way to combat the numbness is by adding newness into your life. And that will, at the very least, shuffle everything around and give you like a new starting place. And ideally, that will put you in a better place where you do feel more like yourself. And next time that you do feel like yourself, take advantage of that. Put those areas of your life together in such a way that they will serve you the next time that you need them. Pika, that was my answer to your question. Thank you so much for answering that. Hopefully my answer helped the viewers at home. Hopefully it helped you as well. So really grateful for you being a part of this community. Thank you all so much for watching. Huge special thanks as always to my beloved patrons. You guys make the world go round. I love you. Hope you all have the most amazing week ever. I'll see you next week.